All right, I'll call this meeting to order, the Calaveras Council of Governments meeting of March 4th, 2020. Please rise if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. Angels Camp City Manager Melissa Eads, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial and will be acted upon by the council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or interested parties may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda for further discussion. Is there any council member wish to pull an item? Seeing none, is there any staff member? Seeing none, member of the public? Seeing none, I'm open for a motion.
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0.
One abstention. I was gone.
Pardon me?
I was absent.
You were absent, so you abstained?
Yes.
So it's 6-0 with one abstention. Moving on to the regular agenda, item number 6, the public comments, 5 minutes per person. Comments shall be limited to the items that are within the subject matter or jurisdiction of this council and not on the posted agenda. This Government Code Section 54954.3A. Is there any public comment this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to the regular agenda, item number 7. Number 7 is the minute order approving the fiscal year 2020-21 draft operations budget. And this is Kylie. This is your item?
Yes.
Okay. You want to?
Turn your mic on.
Oh yeah, you can press that.
Staff recommends that the council approve the fiscal year 2021 draft operations budget totaling $537,545. The draft operations budget reflects a decrease of $1,225 compared to fiscal year 1920 amendment number 2 shown on the attachment on page 36. If you look at the table on page 36, all adjustments show reflection of actual costs and projected adjustments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any council questions? No? Seeing none? Is there any questions from the public on this item? No? Bring it back to the council. I'm looking for a motion.
So
to approve
moved.
this budget. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. No further discussion. A call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Moving on to the next item on agenda, number 8. This is a resolution for resolution number FY220-19, approving the fiscal year 2020 overall draft, overall work program, the OWP, and planning, programming, and monitoring expenditure plan. Again, Kylie, this is yours.
And I'll take this
You'll
item.
take this, Amber? I'm sorry?
As the you're correct. It does say Kylie.
It does take time.
We called an called an audible.
Called an audible, is that what you said?
As the council is aware, this is our primary management tool for identifying our tasks and work products we undertake for the year, and this is for fiscal year 2021. I'll refer you to packet page 58, which shows the Excel spreadsheet of all the work elements and the estimated funding that we have projected for each fund source. So the estimated funding for each fund source at the top is based off of received estimates from state sources. The COG column should equal and does equal our operations budget, and then the contract column is for contracts to achieve the work. All the work elements include ongoing annual work elements to support COG activities, as well as project-specific work elements for this upcoming year. So new work elements, I'll just highlight for you. Work element number 2, the triennial performance audits, those are due next year. So we'll have to start those next year. Number 8 is the regional transportation plan update, which will get started here shortly. Number 12 is actually a rollover work element from last year, safe bicycle travel opportunities for bike tourism. Number 13 is long-range transit plan. 14 is a regional greenhouse gas inventory and reduction plan for both the city and county. And then number 15 is SB 743 regional threshold development, and that's also for both the city and county. Anything else to highlight? Yeah, so you'll notice at the very top, we usually identify carryover funds. Those are always identified in the amendment in October, so after the close of the fiscal year. So you'll see those adjustments. So this is a draft that goes to Caltrans. It's due March 1st, but they know we have our meeting a couple days later, so we'll submit it after this meeting. And then the final is due in June, so you'll see a final of this in June. That final usually reflects some drawdown balances. So like the regional transportation plan, we're getting started right now, so we might have some consultant invoices, so that amount might be reduced by June. Any questions? We're happy to answer any questions.
None? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Moving on to item number 9. This is a minute order approving the award of a professional service agreement with New Miller and Beardsley for CCOG Legal Services. Amber, this is you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As the board's aware, our current legal counsel, Jim Jones, he's served the COG for nearly 10 years, and he will be leaving the COG, which we're very sad. He's been a very trusted advisor of this board and staff for a really long time, so he'll be duly and sincerely missed. But to replace Jim, we released an RFP back in December. We received 2 proposals from 2 qualified consulting firms, both out of the Stockton area, so we were excited about that. We had a review committee that was made up of myself, our administrative services officer, a member of the executive management group, and our current legal counsel. We reviewed the proposals. We invited both bidders to an interview in February, and based on those reviews and reference checks, staff is recommending contract award to New Miller and Beardsley. New Miller and Beardsley is based out of Stockton, and they have significant experience with similar organizations, specifically COG organizations. They've been the legal counsel for the Stanislaus Council of Governments since their inception, and the San Joaquin Council of Governments. So they have a lot of experience specifically with COGs, which is good, and special districts. I did include as an attachment to this agenda item their bio and the team that they're recommending. And we actually have here today Monica Streeter. She will be the lead counsel for this contract. So thank you, Monica, for coming. And this was reviewed and recommended by the executive management group as well. And so I'm happy to answer any questions for the council.
Well, I already worked with her on Eastern San Joaquin, so.
Would you like to say anything?
Good evening. I'm Monica Streeter, and I work with New Miller and Beardsley in Stockton. And just wanted to say thank you. Very excited to start working with all of you and building a long-term relationship. As your executive director mentioned, we've been working with COGS for a number of years. I'm actually general counsel for Stanislaus Council of Governments and the deputy for San Joaquin. And I look forward to getting to know all of you, work with you, and build a long relationship. And I can answer any questions you have about the agreement or anything else.
Any questions? No? Great. Okay, any public questions?
May I be heard on this?
You what?
May I be heard on this?
Yes, you may, Jim.
I'd like to thank you for the nice comments. And I want to, I don't have to tell this board that you are blessed with the superb staff. And it's been a pleasure working with this board. This board this agency is a model for what local government should be, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your time off.
I will.
With that, thank you so much. No public comments on this item. I'll bring it back to the board. Looking for a motion on this contract.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Moving on to item number 10. This is the acceptance of the pavement management system update final reports. And this is Amber.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We began this work in March with city and county staff. We awarded a contract to NCE. This work in effort included pavement condition data collection of 717 center lane miles throughout the county and the city of Angels. The city has 31 of those center lane miles. This included update of maintenance and rehabilitation strategies. So the consultant team worked with city and county staff on specific maintenance and rehab strategies for each jurisdiction. It included a budget analysis and funding scenarios, so they analyzed 3 funding and budget scenarios for each jurisdiction. For the city, they analyzed 10-year budget scenarios, and for the county, they analyzed 20-year budget scenarios. This also included implementation of a pavement management software program, which is Street Saver, which many jurisdictions throughout the state utilize, and it was created by MTC, which is the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. Very good partners of ours, so I should know their name. And the consultant staff provided a presentation to the City Council on February 18th of the different the outcomes of this process and the funding scenarios, and county staff provided a presentation to the Board of Supervisors on the outcome of this as well. So this will, the purpose of this is to provide kind of objective information and data necessary to provide informed and data-driven decisions on the maintenance and rehabilitation of pavement systems. And I think, and to help educate and inform policymakers as well. And I think that, your staff and Josh will be able to take this information and utilize it. I know the county has plans to kind of update the payment conditions every year and kind of keep that up to date. And the COG will work with the city on maintaining this system as well as we move forward. So it was a really good process, and I think for the first time, kind of a really comprehensive update of the payment system for both the city and county. And you have very competent staff, so I'm happy that the money well spent, because it'll be utilized. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the outcomes of the process or next steps for COG. It's good timing because we're updating our regional transportation plan, which includes future projects and kind of overall funding picture for the region. So we'll be able to incorporate this data into that process.
Any questions? Any public questions? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Close public comment period. This was an informational item only, so there's no action required on it. And we'll move on to item number 11. It says County Quarterly Report. Josh, you're up.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Melissa. So good evening, Chair Tofinelli and members of the board. My name is Joshua Pack. I'm the Director of Public Works and Transportation for Calaveras County, and I'm here to give an update on the capital improvement programs identified on the COG list. And so I'll go through these. I have some new updates from last month, which are really exciting. The first one on the list is the county roadway signing retro reflectivity upgrade. So the board adopted a contract for a road safety audit in early 2020. The project kickoff meeting was held January 27th, so our consultant is well on their way to collecting the data. Based on history, this takes about 18 to 24 months to complete, including the CEQA side and NEPA side of things before going to construction. As an interesting side note, I'm actually presenting to the Public Works Officers Institute in 2 weeks on this exact topic as a keynote speaker. So my prior experience is really well delivering 2 of these, and there's only been, I think, 4 in the entire state delivered. I've been fortunate to deliver 2 of them. And so in a really good position to deliver this project for Calaveras County. So looking forward to doing that again. Construction's probably 2023, but the project will identify, improve signage along more than 200 miles of county roadway. And the idea is by improving predictability and consistency in our signage, drivers can make educated and informed decisions in their driving patterns, which can result in lower accidents. So I think this is a project that will really result, after it's done, in a significant decrease in vehicle collisions on Calaveras County roads. Really excited about that project. It's not the sexiest project, it's signs, but in the long run, I think it has the opportunity to have a profound impact on road safety, and we very much appreciate the COG's support, both financially and otherwise on that project. The Burns Ferry Road project, related to that, as many of you are familiar, that project was demobilized for the winter. The project is about 44% complete. We have received recent emails from George Reed, who has an interest in remobilizing, getting that project started up again. They were looking at next week, how it's supposed to rain next week. So we're still kind of piecing that off, but the contractor is pretty anxious to get that project completed, and so so are we. So we're looking probably, if it doesn't start next week and the weather turns out better than we think, we're looking probably in the next, I would say sometime in March, barring significant rain, that we'll be starting that project again. And if not, we'll start as soon as it gets dry. The next project is the San Andreas 49 Gateway and Corridor project. So the cooperative agreement between us and Caltrans has been executed in recent weeks. The purpose and needs statement is in the final draft. That's a requirement from Caltrans. We've done our field review, not only with ourselves and Caltrans, but the COG was there as well. That was completed on February 26th. Some upcoming milestones. We have a consultant that'll provide a draft traffic engineering performance assessment in March, and then a draft peer report in April, and generally the consultant is keeping to their project schedule. So we're excited about that. The Wagon Trail project, the good example of that is we recently executed an agreement with a right-of-way consultant to begin the right-of-way process with that. The right-of-way process appraisal will begin work later this month. And so we'll be marching the consultants under very strict orders to be as aggressive as possible in that schedule, realizing that we need to start construction in summer 2021. Both Amber and I have been hard at work, and I would say Amber's carried the most of the load on this, working with Caltrans to work to secure additional SHOP funding. We've been very successful. District 10 and Den McElhaney have been great partners to work with. One of the things that's interesting is their increased commitment to the western segment. And so one of the things both Amber and I are looking at now, with the increased likelihood that the western segment is progressing, what can we do to look at the other segments? And so one of the things we're looking at, we've had a discussion of some potential grant funding opportunities to get that potential portion of the project shovel ready. And so we'll be pursuing those in the next couple of months. I've been working particularly with Mio O'Connell, our representative for O'Connell, Dempsey, and I can't remember the last name, but O'Connell and Dempsey, the county's legislative representative. We've been working with her on some opportunities for federal funding. So we're making a lot of good progress on that. We're looking forward to getting that right-of-way kind of straightened out. Shifting to Mountain Ranch Road. Fortunately, we have 3 right-of-way purchases that we need to do as part of the project. The first one and most critical has been completed. It'll be going to the Board of Supervisors next Tuesday for approval. If it's approved, then we will have all of the critical right-of-way necessary to deliver that project. We have 2 other right-of-way agreements with property owners to help clean up and clarify right-of-way. There was just some gray areas that aren't required, but they work really well in order to deliver the project and just clean up some errors. And so we've been working with 2 property owners. That work has been complete. We'll probably bring that to the board April 14th. On the design side, the design plans are nearly complete. We plan to bring that to the board sometime in April. Likely in later April, we'll try to shoot for a little bit sooner. But everything looking right now, we'll be awarding a construction contract in June or July and starting construction this summer. The last project is the Valley. Oh, I'm sorry.
I do have a question on that.
Sure.
Do you have a forecasted length of time for that?
I don't off the top of my head. I would think anecdotally we would be looking to complete sometime in the middle late fall. I think generally speaking that's probably a 3-month project. So I don't see this leaking into 2020, 21. I see this being done before the end of 2020.
Thank you.
Yep. The next project and final project is the Valley Springs School Safety Improvement, and the COG has done a wonderful job at preparing that report for final adoption here. We've been working, my staff, along with the COG and the CTC staff, met out in the field to look at that project as a potential candidate for the Active Transportation Program, or ATP. The CTC really liked the project. However, we did get some feedback that they didn't think it would compete quite as well as maybe some other projects, either the Murphy's Drive or the Pope Street project. So we'll be looking at some other funding opportunities for that, whether it's through CMAQ or maybe some other grant funding or potential opportunities in the future. So we do have $210,000. I don't think that's quite enough to get through the completed design for that. So we will be looking at some other opportunities. There's an option to carry it through maybe environmental phases to get it partially. I'm one that likes to get all the way to the finish line. I don't like going halfway and then stopping. So that might be one we look to get a little more funding in the future. But like I said, the report's been super helpful. The meeting with the CTC is helpful because the ATP grant application process is extremely laborious, and the success rate on ATP grants is not great. And so we want to make an educated decision when we make our efforts for grant applications. And the feedback from the CTC was very valuable because we now know that while they think the Valley Springs project is good, they think there's some other projects we have that will compete much better. And so it gives us more focus, increased focus to identify projects that might compete a little better and then we can put our efforts. So I think that ends my discussion on projects in the program. With that said, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Just a quick question on the grate that was in the Pine Street sidewalk at Pine and Main in West Point. Did you guys have a chance to look at that?
Yeah, so I put that in our system. I put that in about a couple of days after you made that request, so I'm not sure where that's at. The public does have access to that if you're having interest in looking on your own. I can certainly look and find out what the status of that is as well. But if you go to our website, the Calaveras County website, right in the middle, there's a link that says My Calaveras. You can click on that. It takes you to our service request page, and then you can type Main Street or Pine Street in there and actually see what the status is. I know I put the request in. I had a couple of my road crew members were familiar with it. They didn't think it was a critical safety issue. That doesn't mean it's not needed or doesn't need the repairs, but they are familiar and aware of it. I just don't know what the status is, if they've done it or not yet.
Any other questions?
Josh, your staff down in District 4 is doing a great job on these little potholes, just silly little things, but they do make a difference. And even on some of the back roads that I've been traveling, seeing those is just, it's nice to get it done.
Thank you. And, I have to, and some of those things, especially on some areas in District 4, and there's some spots in District 2 as well, a lot of those sites were identified for cleanup as part of the FEMA disaster recovery. And so we were waiting for FEMA to give us authorization, and none of that work was a potential threat or hazard to the community, but it was just something that needed to get done. We had asked for a couple $100,000, I think, in funding for that. We received word a week or two ago that we were rejected, which sounds like bad news, but actually there's a little silver lining that now we can actually go do the work. We were kind of waiting because we were hoping to get reimbursement. The actual cost for our road crews to do it is less than contractors to do it, but with everything else we're doing. So that's why you're seeing a lot of this activity now. Our guys have been, trust me, they've been bugging me for months about getting rid of this stuff, and I've been the guy saying, whoa, we may get grant funding or reimbursement from FEMA. And so now that those shackles are kind of off, the guys can do what they're really good at, which is cleaning up roads and keeping them safe.
Any other comments, questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Josh. Moving to item number 12, this is the city quarterly report.
Hello. Melissa Eads, City Administrator, City of Angels, and I'm here to do the best we can on our quarterly report. We are working on the Angels Creek Bike and Ped plan. It remains a critical economic development project for the City of Angels, though we are moving slowly on that. And very aware of our progress on that project, but it's been as part of our strategy to advance the Murphy's Grade Road project and also the State Route 49 active transportation project. Those two have been on critical path with many competing deadlines that we've been trying to accommodate. So with those nearing our construction RFA, which we are hopeful to start getting on the State Route 49 project, on March 16th, we'll submit the construction RFA. And then our goal for both of them is to be in construction this summer. And once we complete construction, then sort of let loose on our Angels Creek Master Plan and Trails project. With the Angels Creek project as well, we plan on working with the COG and coming back with project updates on all of our projects in April, because we'll be requesting some movement of funds so that we could prioritize our construction specifically on the Murphy's Grade Road project. The Angels Vehicle Charging Station, as you know, we've completed the PE phase. We've requested the Council of Governments deobligate those funds, and again, that'll be part of our presentation in April that we'll be making to the COG board, again, to prioritize the construction of the Murphy's Grade Road project. We have started our Collector Road striping and sign replacement project. We started the first of the billable work. We are too completing the inventory and audit, and then we'll begin with construction. But we did complete 2 small projects that were of high critical importance for our community, that being the restriping of Murphy's Grade Road in front of the high school. We didn't want to do too much to conflict with the Murphy's Grade Road construction sidewalk project, but it was a critical safety issue with numerous complaints from the high school, so we were able to utilize some of that funding to go ahead and repair and fix that striping, as well as a critical intersection of, Mark Twain, Pacific, and Gold Cliff. So those are some local projects that we were able to complete utilizing that funding, and the community is very thankful for that. We've submitted the RFA for the Historic District Improvement Project, so we look forward to moving forward on that. We are working with Amber to make sure that we could secure the match requirements for that project, if I'm remembering correctly, if that's the project. And then I think I've highlighted where we are in the Murphy's Grade Road and the ATP project. Again, both of those critical path, both of those projects, very tight deadlines, and we think that Drake Hagelin and Associates is our project team, that they are delivering. The next thing that I will be working with your executive director and also the board on is cash flow for these projects. If we are successful, they both go to construction this summer. I hope that you all have shovels in your hands in June, but we are looking at $4 million in construction projects over a 3-month period, and so we need to work out a cash flow strategy either with COG or potentially the county to make sure that we can keep reimbursement for those contractors moving. So that's where we are on some of our city projects, and thank you for being patient with us as we try to advance both those critical projects, ATP and Murphy's Grade Road, because there are tight deadlines on those. There are also funding shortfalls on Murphy's Grade Road, but working with your executive director, we hope to bring forward a solution next month. So that's that. Unless you have any questions for me?
Questions, comments? No? Any public comments, questions? Seeing none? Melissa, thank you.
Okay,
Can I
thank
take-
you.
She's got.
Have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Amber, staff has a comment.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Melissa and Josh for all their work. I don't know if the council recognizes, it wasn't too long ago when we continued to see zeros on progress and continued, delays of projects. And they've been doing a ton of work this last year and working extremely collaboratively and making my job so easy. We go to TAC and they both are working together to make sure each jurisdiction is successful. So I just want to thank them. It's been night and day working with your staff, and so I appreciate that. And yeah, just want to continue to work with them on delivering projects. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, is the struggle with delivering these projects. I think you see each project has several funding sources that have different funding deadlines, and it gets complicated and difficult to track. So that's part of COG's job, is to try to track that. But again, appreciate city and county staff reacting when we're like, oh, funding deadline is coming up, and they move on it and work together to move funds around. So just want to say thank you to you and your staff and your leadership for all that work.
Well, I'm going to thank Josh and Melissa too. things are going very well, and it sounds like they're working out great. There's been times in the past, if you've been around for a while, that city and county did not work very well, but I'm glad to hear it, and I think it's great. And I want to thank staff for their part in it also. You guys are doing a great job altogether. Thank you. Anything else? Moving on then, we'll move on to item number 13. This is the Transit Quarterly Report. Amber, is this you?
Yes, this is me. Update on some of the transit capital projects. This report that you have needs to be updated after we just revised the PTMIC expenditure plan. But as you can see, we purchased 2 new Ford buses. Those are in service and working well. We're reprogramming some of this bus stop improvement phase for $175,000 for replacement of one of our Freightliner buses next year. And then the remaining money for the bus stop improvements will be spent on constructing a bus stop in front of Bret Harte High School in Angels Camp on Highway 49.
Okay. Any questions? Comments? Any public comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, move on to item number 14, Caltrans report.
Thank you, Chairs. Good evening, Board. Kevin Tur, Caltrans. I'm filling in for Gregoria Ponce. She's actually in Sacramento today. Second of all, it's tough going after the city and county on their cool projects, so hopefully you can listen on for my 4 little items, and then if there's anything that I don't know about, our highways up here, please let me know. I'd love to take that stuff back and so we can get working on it. So the first item I have is, obviously, ATP applications are coming up, active transportation. So there's $440 million this year at stake, and hopefully you'll be putting in applications in this year, and the call for projects is going to be at the end of March. So times are moving quick on that. CTC, California Transportation Commission, is preparing Cycle 2 of SB1 competitive funding for the Solutions for Congested Corridor Program and the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. So the Corridor Program applications are due in June, and then for the Trade, the Congested Corridor is in June, and then the Trade Corridor, the applications are going to be due in June also, but they're actually have guidelines out in March for that grant funding cycle. So something to be paying hopefully attention to. I have a small note. It seems a little funny, but as we're getting more lights up in the county, there's a brand new one in Angels Camp. We just want to make sure everyone's aware when the power does go out from a disaster or anything like that, it becomes an all-way forced stop. There's been questions in our office recently a lot about that. What happens? It might blink red, or it might just be completely out. So, as ambassadors up here for transportation, hopefully we can pass it on to everyone. Or if we need to work to have some kind of community outreach on that, we can do that. And then lastly, Caltrans completed a climate change vulnerability study that was now online, and we just want to bring that up so hopefully everyone on this board can read it, and maybe that has some kind of impacts, or you can notice that we have similar problems on certain corridors of the county and highways. So those are my 4 exciting updates, unless there's anything else you need from me.
Yes.
I got a couple of items for you.
Sure.
We're trying to get a Visitors Bureau sign on Highway 4 pointing towards Town Square in Copperopolis. We have a satellite location there, and there seems to be a little bit of a struggle trying to get a signage for that location.
And it's south or north?
This is on the south side of the highway.
South side. Okay.
It would be just an informational sign. The other thing is that there is a spot west of Appaloosa on the eastbound side of Highway 4 that has been in the past denoted as a turnout area. It's not currently signed that way. Even in the short term between now and the time we go into construction, which would eliminate it anyway, is it something that Caltrans might consider putting some signage there to indicate that that is a turnout?
There is a turnout, you're saying?
It has been used that way in the past. It was striped appropriately in the past.
And
It is not currently.
Do you know if it has a length for a turnout? And
Yes, it
everything does?
absolutely does. It is just west of Appaloosa on the eastbound side of Highway 4. It'd be the south side of the highway.
Okay, I will contact my internal unit about that.
Right. If you have any questions, you can contact me directly.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions or comments? No, seeing none. Public? Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
Just, John.
I'm John.
It's okay. We'll answer to
I'm
anything.
tired, I'm sorry.
No worries. Highway 4, Angels Camp, we talked about a turnout just past the
Right.
449 intersection.
Any work on that?
Any additional update? We were
No.
told it was looked at, the study was completed, or a study was looked at and approved for future work to be done.
Have you, and sorry, who told you that, so I can
It
follow
was
back
Dan,
on? Dan?
yeah, last meeting.
I think that Melissa probably has an update.
Sure, sure.
So is this the 449 intersection?
Just
Kind
past
of-
CVS.
Just
going
past CVS?
eastbound.
Okay, because we are working with Caltrans and the COG, trying to coordinate a break-in access at Foundry. And we also are working with Caltrans on the programming of a shop project at the 449 intersection for a potential roundabout. And so I think that those planning efforts have kind of taken priority over, I think, the consideration of a turnout at that location. And I think the intersection and the shop improvements have already been programmed. Is that correct? Yeah, so we're already moving forward with intersection improvements, I think, at the 449.
Okay, this is still just the ability for people to get around trucks that have been stuck, where the traffic's stuck getting to that intersection. They're stuck once they go eastbound on 4, going up to Murphy's on the bypass, all the way up past Murphy's to get.
Okay, so it's on, oh, you're not talking about, okay.
It's past the intersection eastbound towards, from the
Got it,
bridge.
okay, so that's out of my project area.
Okay.
So I thought you were talking about just in front of like the Starbucks, the Prudential building, that area, okay. So you're back on.
Oh, good. So let me try to answer it then.
Why do you have an answer for that?
I don't know. Okay, so Dan obviously came here last month
Right.
and told you that. So what I can just do is I can follow up with this, executive staff and see where we're at on that. Obviously, I'm not aware of this moment where we are, but I'll make sure he either sends you or Amber an email to follow up, or
I
one
mean,
of the
there's
staff
enough room
members.
there, you could do a passing lane, but at minimum, at least, it'd be nice to have some length of turnout.
Okay, absolutely.
I do
People use turnout, so
I do have one other thing, well, it just came to my mind.
Okay.
We're seeing a lot of realtors posting posts and signs, and they're right at your edge on your easements. Are you folks watching that, monitoring that at all, or is it just complaint driven?
They take them.
They
Yeah,
take them away?
If they're in a right of way, we technically take them and put them to our storage yard, and when someone contacts us asking if we took a sign, we then provide it back to them, letting them know why we took it, because it might be obstructing view, or it's just in the state right away, and we can't do any advertising for any company or anything like that. That's the biggest thing. So if they have been pulled, yes. If not, someone could contact our maintenance yard in Altaville or West Point or somewhere, and actually have them come out and check the location with the right-of-way map.
We have a community service area at Stallion and Highway 4.
Okay.
And just all of a sudden, it seems like there's like 6 or 8 signs, and they are obstructing view because of the way they sit
Right.
in relation to the road. If they're not in your easement, I understand, because it's not even in the county's jurisdiction in essence,
And-
being a CSA.
And one thing I would just like to say is, as we're very familiar with, county roads and country roads, there's usually a fence for the cattle. That's not always the right of way, so sometimes it is before or after that line. So that's not always a hard deadline on where their property ends.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
all right. Moving on to item number 15, council reports. Any member of the council wish to report anything?
Well, we've got a potential movie set operation coming into Copperopolis this fall, and will involve about 200 people from England. So more to come on that, but I know I've reached out to Amber on the transit challenge that will happen with that as well, so that we can properly support it. And where do we site them? Do we put them in Angels Camp and lose the
Yeah, where do
TOT,
you
or
put
do
it?
we send them up to Murphy's? Kind of thing. But no, we need to work that detail out, but I'm just glad to see there's interest for that. So that's all I have.
Any other? I have nothing. So we'll move on to item number 16. Excuse me, before I move on to item number 16, Is there any public comments about that item? Seeing none, we'll move on to 16, staff reports. Verbal report. No supplemental materials are included today. Amber, you do have a cover sheet, but nothing behind it.
Yes, that is correct.
Nothing.
Yeah, I didn't have time to pull together some reading material for you. I thought you were busy enough this month. But I have nothing additional to add unless the council has any other questions on any
Questions?
things going on.
Kylie, you have anything to add? Yes. Aaron.
Much to share.
But it was honest.
That was an honest answer, that was great.
Mr. Jones?
Jim, I
Thank
have
you.
something to add.
Yeah, please.
I want to thank you for your service for COG. I remember when you lost your other job, your last job, I got you this job. And it's been a real pleasure working with you. You've done just a fantastic job, and I think staff will say the same. You're always there when we need you. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. As I recall, I asked you to do with you getting your job too.
Yes, we won't go there. You're welcome. So you're buying the rounds after the meeting tonight, all on you?
Oh, the bar's closed.
Forgot your wallet? All right, with that, we move on to item number 17. We stand adjourned until our next meeting, which is April 1st at 5:30 here in these chambers. Thank you. And we will take a 5-minute break before we go into the CTA. Okay. All right, let's move on.
Was that the Tofinelli 5?
Yes.
Yeah.
The what?
I'll call the Calaveras Transit Agency meeting of March 4th, 2020 to order. And we will start with, since we already did with the pledge with the COG, we will start with the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial and will be acted upon by the council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or interested parties may request that an item be removed from consent agenda for further discussion. Is there any council member wishing to remove an item?
Item number 3.
Item number 3. John wants item number 3. Any other council member? Any staff member? Any member of the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back, and I'm looking for a motion for the remainder of the consent.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0
One abstention.
with one abstention. 6-0 with one abstention. Okay? We'll move on to item number 3. John, you pulled this. This is fiscal year 2019-20 mid-year financial report and budget to actuals.
Yeah, just in looking at it, packet page 11, under the ticket sales on charges for services, line 4692, at 69%, still remaining means we've collected roughly 30%, and I was hoping that our second 6-month plan would be a little better. I know that transit ticket sales are part of our fare box revenue, but not the totality of it, but still only seeing 30% collected through the first 6 months. I was just concerned that maybe there's more to that story.
Yes, we budget at the minimum required fare box value, which is 10% of operating costs. But we are making that up with other revenues such as advertising and LCTOP tickets.
Yeah, and the other note to make too, and you see that there's still 62%. At the 40,000, this is actually a little bit higher than where we were at mid-year last year for ticket sales.
So that's a positive.
So yeah, there's,
Okay, we're moving.
yes, I understand.
We hadn't sold
It is
as much
positive.
this time last year. Okay,
Yes.
all right, that was all I was curious about.
Any other questions, comments? Any public comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. I'll look for a motion.
And I'll move number 3.
Motion, do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Moving on to the regular agenda, item number 6 is public comment. 5 minutes per person. Comments shall be limited to the items that are within the subject matter and jurisdiction of the council and not posted on the agenda. This is Government Code Section 54954.3A. Is there any public comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 7. Item number 7 is a minute order approving the award of a professional service agreement with New Miller and Beardsley for the Calaveras Transit Agency Legal Services. Amber.
Yes, thank you,
You're
Chair.
up.
As you are aware, the current legal services that we received through Jim Jones is no longer available, so we went out with, the COG went out with an RFP. Previously, the CTA was paying for legal services through the COG staff services agreement, but now that the legal services will be provided through a contract, we decided to have a separate contract for the CTA and the COG. So this is the exact same contract as with the COG, it's just with the CTA.
Any council questions on this item? Seeing none, is there any public comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion, second. Do I have a second? Second. You have a second? Okay, thanks. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Moving on to item number 8, this is the mid-year performance report. And this should reflect a little bit more from your item number 3, John. Amber, this is yours?
Yes, sir. Thank you. In the interest of time, I won't bore you with a PowerPoint presentation, but I will walk you through kind of some of the key highlights of the mid-year performance report. So starting on packet page 58 is kind of a summary of the different major changes or service changes this year. And this year, we didn't implement any major service changes. We've kind of maintained existing levels of service. We did add the Ironstone as a regular stop on Saturday Hopper, and we added the Ironstone concert series that happened in June, July, and August. So that impacted our ridership positively. And we also added the Mark Twain Wild West Festival to our annual event calendar, and we introduced the free fare program for Columbia College students. So those are kind of some of the key highlights, major changes that occurred this year. The next page, on page 59, operating statistics, you'll see, we've maintained pretty consistent levels. Days haven't changed. Vehicle hours and miles went up slightly, and that's mostly due to the increased service levels for Saturday Hopper and the Ironstone concerts. Operating costs and expenses went up by 1.6%, and that's really just reflective of the new contract, which addressed increased minimum wage requirements, and gas and oil was up more this period versus last year as well. Our revenue, though, you'll see up 36% from this time last year, and that's mostly due to the new advertising and sales program. We're doing really good. We have all of our advertising spots sold, and so we're generating some good revenue through that source, and that'll help our fare box recovery at the end of the year, so we're really happy about that program. The next page, service effectiveness. Ridership is up slightly. It's 15%, but up just a couple thousand, so that is positive. It's not going down. We're increasing, and again, that's mostly attributable to the Saturday Hopper and the increased events that we're doing in the Ironstone relationship. And so that increased ridership reflects positively on our passengers per vehicle service hour and mile, and average daily ridership is up as well. We've analyzed ridership by route, and as you can see, the red line has some positive improvements, probably mostly attributed to our agreement with Columbia College, where Columbia College students ride for free. That started on August 15th, so we're 4 months into that program. The blue line just slightly, so that line has kind of leveled out the last couple years. Copper, green, and purple, you see these are massive percentage points, but it only represents a couple, maybe 100 riders, very small, because those are pretty low performing routes. So those are definitely routes that we will we are focusing on this short-range transit plan. So we did a lot of focused outreach in West Point area and a lot of focused outreach in Copper, trying to figure out what alternative services we could provide there, because fixed route service is clearly not the solution and not very cost-effective for our program. And next page on service efficiency. Again, these are positive trends. Operating costs per hour and mile have reduced, and operating costs per passenger and fare box recovery ratio is not the audited, the audited fare box recovery ratio. They include exemptions and alternative revenue sources like surplus of buses, things like that. This is just kind of a raw picture of our operating costs at this moment, as well as fare revenues and advertising sales revenues compared to the last 2 years at this point. And so this is a really positive jump, and again, mostly due to our advertising sales program. And then our Columbia College partnership as well. Columbia College pays $5,000 each semester, so that has helped as well. Under service quality, this is a new metric that I added into this report just based on the council's interest in learning more about our on-time performance that we've had this past year. On-time performance has fluctuated quite a bit, and we've analyzed this, and I'm working with Cynthia on continuing to analyze the details on why there are late departures. Many are attributed to deviations, so every single one of our routes allow for 3/4 of a mile deviation. So some routes and some runs have more requests than others, and if it's a wheelchair passenger or somebody who needs more assistance, that also takes additional time. So that does impact some routes more significantly than others. Like I think the red line gets quite a few, and purple line. Obviously, road closures and traffic due to road work or extreme weather. I know everybody knows these roads, there's no alternative routes, so that impacts our system significantly. So we're doing a lot to try to minimize the impact to riders during these events. Cynthia and her team has implemented what they call the bat signal, so allowing riders to sign up for email and text messages when they know there's an event that's going to cause delays to a certain route or service. We're also developing schedules for each route based off of, if it's, what are we calling it, extreme weather schedule 1 or something, and 2. So there's set schedules that we can just defer to and say we are on, extreme weather schedule 1, so that riders kind of know what to expect. And that will be helpful during the PSPS events as well. And then, trying to work with our partners, like CCWD has a pretty big construction project on Highway 4 that has a large impact. So reaching out to partners.
Starting back up
exactly.
early. Yeah.
So reaching out to partners like that in Caltrans to try to identify maybe possibilities to where transit could potentially have priority, or if that's even possible. So we're reaching out to those partners to try to figure out how we can minimize the impact to our riders. So things like that we're working on. Other impacts to on-time performance is passenger transfers, and then again assistance to people with disabilities. That takes some time sometimes. So overall, I think in summary, the trends are positive, although not dramatic or drastic, but they are headed in a positive direction. They're not going down, and I think that's a good thing. And then for service quality and on-time performance, that's definitely something that we will continue to track and monitor and keep the board apprised of impacts to that. But again, we're trying to implement some tools to help improve our on-time performance. Happy to answer any questions.
Any council have any questions? John?
On the Copper line, I've asked in the past about extending it from where it just goes down to Little John, Copper Cove Drive, and then coming back on a Birds Ferry to actually going all the way down over Little John to Kiva, because it seems to me like you're missing the whole Arrowhead subdivision there on that side of the lake. And then the same thing actually when it comes down to Copper Cove Drive, if you could get the buses to go, and to me, it makes sense to do the same route that the high school uses down towards Lake Tulloch Shores. It seems like we're skipping a huge segment of the housing populations in that area. And I noticed that you guys increased it so that there's more routes being run. It says every 3 hours, but it seems like you're still missing a whole area of the residences that are down there by just using Copper Cove Drive as your turn to cut back and come back along Oberns Ferry Road. Yeah.
Cynthia Lawrence, Paratransit Services, Contract Manager, Calaveras Connect. For that piece, we actually will deviate down there and pick up people if they call in advance, and probably we need to work on getting back out there and doing that public outreach in that area. But we will go down there. It's not part of the physical route that we do each and every time. You would have to call and ask for a deviation. And I think we get a couple people every now and then that'll ask for that deviation. But we do service it, we just don't service it on a regular basis.
Right.
They would have to call us. So.
Can you talk about going all the way down by like the CCWD plant and turn around with that little cul-de-sac there?
Yeah, we can go, that's as far as we can go, and there's a good
Right.
turnaround.
Yeah, that's as far as you
And we can come back, yeah.
Any other comments? Any public comments? Seeing none, this is an informational item, so we will move on. Thank you, Amber. Item number 9, Paratransit Services Operations Contractor Report.
Hello.
You're back.
So soon. It's been Cynthia Lawrence, Calaveras Connect, Paratransit Services. So I didn't put anything together. It was a slow month. I was gone part of it for vacation. But when I came back, there was a few things going on. And so I just wanted to educate the board a little bit on the COVID-19, which is also known as the coronavirus. We're fortunate here. I don't believe we have anything going on in Calaveras, but it's possible. So we are making plans to keep our county safe, at least as transit is concerned. We are moving forward with hand sanitizer, basic masks, and what's the other thing? And sanitizer wipes as well. Our vehicles will get, and that's for the public, the general public, so when they get on, they're welcome to use those items. And then every day our vehicles are always being wiped down anyways, but now we're going to take an extra step and start wiping them down when they come in at night. And anytime they come in from a route, they'll get wiped down completely. We're looking into foggers. It's sort of like like your traditional house fogger kind of thing. But you can actually use them in bursts, and it will sort of settle in and get into the nooks and crannies of places where we actually can't get to or wouldn't see. And we can do that once a week. So that's sort of our emergency preparedness for that issue. And then also, lastly, we have these, they're both in English and in Spanish. They come from the CDC. These are going to be posted in all the buses for people to see and provide education. Anything people want to know, our drivers will be ready. So that's all I had.
Any questions? Comments?
No.
No?
That was
Any
easy.
public comments, questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 10, this is staff reports. Amber, do you have a staff report for us?
Sure. Good news, we received notice that we're being awarded an FTA grant for bus replacement for next year. So I don't know if you remember, submitted two bus replacement projects, and we're being awarded one. And so the other bus replacement will be funding through PTMICA as approved in a previous action. So that's my update.
Sure, update report.
That's my report. Yeah.
Sticking to it, too.
Kylie?
Hey, yeah, everybody's tired.
Nothing? Come on, Erin. You have anything, Erin?
I
No? Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is adjournment. We are adjourned till our next scheduled meeting of April 1st, 2020 in these chambers. Thank you very much and good night.
That's an early day.
Is that quick enough for you, Jim?